From the studios of Atlantic Television Network in Port Harcourt, this is ATN International News. First, the headlines. Venancio returns after fleeing on safety fears. Libya Parliament approves transitional justice law. Biden set to push new Russian sanctions. Opposition NGOs decry arrest ahead of protest. Los Angeles wildfire spreads to Hollywood. Government plans to target smugglers, and Shanghai to allow foreign-owned hospitals. After fleeing in the days following a hotly contested October election that sparked demonstrations in which scores of protesters have been killed, Mondlane says the October 9th poll was rigged and has called on his supporters to take the streets across the southern African nation of 35 million. A heavy riot police presence was felt in the areas surrounding capital Maputo's International Airport, where thousands gathered to welcome Mondlane. A report witnessed tear gas was fired on crowds in the area. Snipers were positioned on buildings around the airbase. Protesters have continued sporadically for more than 2 months, and Mondlane's return could add fuel to the fire. Mozambique's top court in December confirmed the ruling party Frelimono's election victory, despite multiple reports from observers that it was not free and fair, triggering fresh rounds of protests. Newly elected President Daniel Chapo is to be sworn in next week, after another potential flashpoint in Mozambique's political crisis. Chapo and Frelimono deny accusations of electoral fraud. Libya's eastern-based parliament has approved a national reconciliation and transitional justice law, 3 lawmakers said, a measure aimed at reunifying the oil-producing country after over a decade of factional conflict. The House of Representatives of the session's attendees in Libya's largest second city, Benghazi. However, implementing the law could be challenging, as Libya has been divided since a 2014 civil war that spawned 2 rival administrations vying for power in east and west following the NATO-backed uprising that toppled Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. I hope that it will be in effect all over the country and will not face any difficulty, House member Abdul Menam Al-Rofi told reporters by phone on Wednesday. The United Nations mission to Libya has repeatedly called for an inclusive, rights-based transitional justice and reconciliation process in the North African country, a political process to end years of institutional division and outright warfare has been stalled since an election scheduled for December 2021 collapsed amid disputes over the eligibility of the main candidate. The Tripoli-based Presidential Council, which came to power with GNU, has been working on a reconciliation project and holding a comprehensive conference with the support of the UN and African Union. But it has been unable to bring all rival groups together because of their continuing differences. Chad's government said security forces has foiled an attempt to destabilize the country on Wednesday evening after bursts of gunfire gang out near the president's office in the capital in N'Djamena, and the military blocked the surrounding streets. In a video shot at the presidential headquarters, government spokesperson Abderrahman Kolamala said the situation was completely under control without giving details on what had happened. It was a little incident, everything is calm, he said in the footage posted on Facebook. This whole attempt at destabilization has been thwarted. Wednesday's events coincided with an official visit by China Foreign Minister Wang Yi to Chad, which recently ended a defense cooperation pact with longtime partner France that had made it a key Western ally in the fight against Islamic militants in West and Central Africa's troubled Sahel region. With a handgun strapped to his hip, Ko Lamala posed with soldiers in fatigues holding assault rifles and promised to share more details later. A security source described the incident as an attempted terrorist attack. Individuals in 3 vehicles attacked the military camps around the president's office, but the army neutralized them, the source said, speaking on condition of anonymity. Earlier, residents in the area described hearing loud volleys of gunshots. Venezuelan opposition parties and NGOs decried the arrest of a prominent press freedom activist and a well-known opposition figure, among others, ahead of planned protests against Friday's inauguration of President Nicolas Maduro for his 3rd term. The opposition Popular Will Party said on X late on Tuesday that at least 19 people had been detained nationwide in what it termed a worsening of persecution and repression by the Maduro government. Neither the Communications Ministry nor the Attorney General's office immediately responded to a request for comment about the latest arrests. The government is investigating major opposition leaders for alleged conspiracy, among other charges, and has repeatedly accused them of inciting violence on their claims of victory in July's presidential election. The opposition has published ballot box level tallies that it says shows a resounding victory for its candidate Edmundo Gonzalez, who is now on a regional tour to promote the opposition's cause and who is recognized by various countries, including the United States, as president-elect. Raging wildfires surrounding Los Angeles spread to the Hollywood Hills on Wednesday after other fires in the area killed at least 5 people, destroyed hundreds of homes, and stretched firefighting resources and water supplies to the limit. More than 100,000 people were ordered to evacuate as dry hurricane-force winds hindered firefighting operations and spread the fires, which have burned thousands of acres since they began on Tuesday. This firestorm is the big one, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass told a press conference after rushing back to the city, cutting short an official trip to Ghana. A new fire broke out in the parched Hollywood Hills on Wednesday evening, Fire Chief Christine Crowley told a press conference, forcing more evacuations and raising the number of wildfires burning in Los Angeles County to at least 6. The LA Fire Department issued an evacuation order for people in an area within Hollywood Boulevard to the south, Mulholland Drive north, the one east, and Laurel Canyon Boulevard to the west, all iconic addresses for the entertainment industry. Brazilian Judge Alexander de Moraes, who last year had led the Supreme Court's decision that temporarily suspended social media platform X in the country, said on Wednesday that tech firms would need to comply with laws in order to keep operating in Brazil. Although he did not name any company, Moraes' remarks comes a day after Meta announced through a video of Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg it would scrap its U.S. fact-checking program and reduce curbs on discussions around contentious topics such as immigration and gender identity. At an event marking 2 years of riots in Brazil against institutions, including the Supreme Court, Moraes said the nation's top court will not allow technology companies to exploit their use of hate speech for profit. President Joe Biden is expected to unveil new sanctions targeting Russia's economy this week, according to a U.S. official, as part of measures to bolster Kyiv's war effort against Moscow before Donald Trump takes office. The steps come military aid for Ukraine on Thursday that was said to include air defense missiles, air-to-ground munitions, and support equipment for F-16 fighter jets. A U.S. official who declined to be named said President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House on January 20th has sparked a hope of a diplomatic resolution to end Moscow's invasion, but also fears in Kyiv that a quick peace could come at a high price. Advisors to Trump have floated proposals to end the Ukraine war that would effectively cede large parts of the country to Russia for the foreseeable future. Biden aides say that they want to put Ukraine in the strongest position on the battlefield to give them leverage for possible negotiations with Russia this year. The United States is also likely to sanction more Chinese entities for their efforts to support Russia, the official said. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told reporters last month that Washington was still seeking to reduce Russia's oil revenue and access to foreign supplies to fuel the Ukraine war. Canadian Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc on Wednesday said he would not run in the race to be leader of the ruling Liberal Party in the wake of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's announcement he was stepping down. In a statement, LeBlanc said he wanted to focus on his job and the task of trying to persuade the incoming U.S. administration not to go through with a promise to impose tariffs on imports from Canada. President-elect Donald Trump and U.S. Senate Republicans spent nearly 2 hours in a closed-door meeting about his upcoming agenda on Wednesday, but emerged with no clear path for enacting his plan to cut taxes, boost fossil fuel production, and deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Trump, in his first visit to the U.S. Capitol since his supporters stormed the building on January 6, 2021, held a wide-ranging discussion that touched on his cabinet nominees, the Panama Canal, oil drilling in Alaska, as well as his legislative agenda, with only narrow majorities in the Senate and House of Representatives. Republicans in the two chambers have clashed over whether to enact Trump's tax, border, energy, and military priorities in one piece of legislation or two. Senate Republicans want to break Trump's agenda into bills, allowing them to notch a quick success on border and energy police before turning to the thornier matter of taxes. House Republicans warn that their narrow margin of control runs the risk of failing to pass a second bill to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which expire at the end of the year. Home reportedly belonging to Hollywood actors Leighton Meester and Adam Brody, and another owned by an actor Billy Crystal, were among more than 1,000 buildings destroyed by wildfires raging across Los Angeles, including a blaze that started on Wednesday in the Hollywood Hills. Jamie Lee Curtis, Mandy Moore, Maria Shriver, and other celebrities were among more than 100,000 people forced to evacuate their homes to escape the out-of-control fires burning in some of Los Angeles' most desirable areas. The largest blaze consumed nearly 12,000 acres in Pacific Palisades, a picturesque neighborhood between the beach towns of Santa Monica and Malibu that is home to many film, television, and music stars. Brody, best known for his roles in TV series The O.C. and Nobody Wants This, and Meester, who starred in Gossip Girl, bought their Pacific Palisades home in 2019 for $6.5 million. According to real estate and entertainment websites. Everything is gone, our neighborhood, our restaurants, and all, she wrote. She wrote on X on Wednesday. The firefighters have and are doing their best, but this fire is massive and out of control. The day after actor James Woods evacuated his house in Pacific Palisades, he said every house around us was on fire. We were literally in the exact epicenter of the fire as it started. Woods, known for his role in Ghost of Mississippi and Any Given Sunday, said on CNN on Wednesday. European Commission rejected on Wednesday Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg's assertion that European Union data laws censored social media and said they only required large platforms to remove illegal content. Meta Platforms scrapped its US fact-checking programs, and its CEO said he would work with President-elect Donald Trump to push back on censorship around the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there, Zuckerberg said. The European Commission, the EU executive, said its Digital Services Act did not force or request platforms to remove lawful content, but only to take down content that may be harmful, such as to children or to the EU's democracies. We absolutely refute any claims of censorship, a Commission spokesperson said. The Commission said that for such a system to be used in the European Union, a platform would have to conduct a risk assessment and send it to the EU executive. A spokesperson said the EU did not prescribe the form that content moderation should take and that community notes could be a possibility, I beg your pardon. US President-elect Donald Trump is serious about trying to acquire Greenland, both to expand America's sphere of influence in the Western Hemisphere and as a way to cement his legacy, according to 3 sources familiar with his thinking. The Republican said on Tuesday that he would not rule out using military or economic action to acquire the overseas Danish territory after he takes office on January 20th, startling European allies who are concerned about maintaining the inviolability of borders at a time of increased global volatility. Trump has publicly floated takeovers of Greenland and the Panama Canal and the absorption of Canada in the United States in recent weeks. Every decision President Trump makes is in the best interest of the United States and the American people. Caroline Leavitt, a Trump spokeswoman, said and economic concerns regarding Canada, Greenland, and Panama. Britain will create a new sanctions regime to target the leaders of networks that smuggle tens of thousands of people into Britain each year, as well as the often Chinese makers of the boats and motors they use, the government said on Wednesday. Under huge political pressure to cut the numbers arriving in small boats from France, the government said, the Vet Cooper said in a statement. The policy was due to be the centerpiece of a speech by Foreign Minister David Lammy on Thursday, seeking to demonstrate coordination between the Foreign and Interior Ministries. Lammy said Britain would pursue the measure would be in place by the end of the year and enable authorities to ban those linked to people smuggling from entering Britain, punish those trying to do business with them, and freeze assets. Shanghai has kicked off a plan to allow the establishment in China of wholly foreign-owned hospitals in key economic zones, pharmaceutical areas and downtown districts that are home to many expatriate residents. The commercial capital is the first city to announce steps after the central government said in September that it would allow wholly foreign-owned hospitals in 9 locations, including Beijing. The aim is to attract investment, improve business sentiment among foreign investors, and reinvigorate the world's second-largest economy where growth has been sluggish. Shanghai will allow foreign-owned hospitals in key economic zones, including the Lingang Special Area and Hongqiao Business District, the municipal government said in a statement on its website on Wednesday. Through the initiative, the city aims to further the opening of China's healthcare sector, enhance the diversity of healthcare services, and improve the business environment. Foreign-owned hospitals must Malaysia wants to leverage its location to become an energy and chip manufacturing hub this year, riding a recent jump in investments and a favorable outlook for the domestic economy, its premier and an economic minister said on Thursday. Malaysia is fast becoming a haven in Southeast Asia, with foreign investors returning as improving growth and a stable currency set it apart from peers grappling with political flux and economic uncertainty. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said Malaysia's economic rebounded dramatically last year, spurred by an influx of strategic investments, most substantially in renewable energy and a global market leader in each field. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said Malaysia is looking to produce its own graphics processing unit chips as demand for artificial intelligence and data center grows. We are hoping that we can start producing made by Malaysia GPUs and chips in the next 5 to 10 years, he said. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll continue with the rest of the stories. Please stay with us.
Frontline. From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Singapore said on Thursday it had detained 3 men since October last year who were preparing to travel to the Middle East to fight against Israel, and one had expressed willingness to carry out attacks in Singapore if instructed to do so. The Home Affairs Ministry said in a statement the 3 Singaporean men were not linked to one another and had been radicalized online, but there was no indication others had been recruited. It was not immediately clear why the ministry announced the detention on Thursday. Following their arrest in October, they were detained under Singapore's Internal Security Act, which allows suspects to be held for lengthy periods without trial. The 3 were a director of a digital marketing company, a lift mechanic, and a security guard aged 41, 21, and 44 respectively. One of the 3 was willing to carry out any instruction from Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the statement said, including conducting attacks in Singapore, adding the man had no specific attack plans. The Palestinian militant group Hamas is backed by Iran, and Iran has not made a threat against Singapore. One of the men had visited a shooting range in Thailand to learn to operate firearms, while 2 planned to visit shooting ranges in Indonesia. In Indonesia, it said that the ministry said restrictions were placed on 2 other Singaporeans in June and July last year under the security law related to the conflicts in Gaza. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol will accept the decision of the Constitutional Court that is trying Parliament's impeachment case against him, even if it decides to remove the suspended leader from office, his lawyer said on Thursday. So, if the decision is removal, it cannot but be accepted, Yoon's lawyer Yoon Kap-kyun told a news conference. Rulings by the court, one of the two highest courts in the country along with the Supreme Court, cannot be appealed. Yoon has earlier ignored the Constitutional Court's request to submit legal briefs before the court began its hearing on December 27th, but his lawyers have said he was willing to appear in person to argue his case. The suspended president has defied repeated summons in a separate criminal investigation into allegations he masterminded insurrection with his December 3rd martial law bid, which led to the first arrest warrant issued for a sitting president. Lawyer Yoon has said the president's arrest warrant was illegal as it was issued by a court in the wrong jurisdiction and the CIO had no mandate to investigate a sitting president for insurrection. Instead, the prosecutors should indict Yoon if there was evidence or request a formal detention warrant, and then Yoon would cooperate. At least 6 people were killed and 35 injured in a stampede near one of India's busiest and richest temples after thousands of devout Hindus flocked to secure free visit passes, authorities said on Thursday. The period from Friday to January 19th is considered auspicious for visits to the deity and the Sri Venkateswara Swami temple, popularly known as Tirupati, in the southern state of Andhra Pradesh, the site of Wednesday's incident. The stampede took place when the gate was opened. Venkateswara, the district collector or top revenue official, told reporters on Thursday that about 2,500 people just pushed through the gate and a few fell. Authorities were still trying to determine the reasons behind the stampede, he added. Tickets for visits to the nearly 2,000-year-old temple usually cost 300 rupees each and are sold online. A police complaint showed the incident occurred between 7:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. outside a school a few kilometers from the temple, where state authorities had set up counters in readiness to issue tickets from Thursday. Video images show police struggling to manage the crowd that had gathered for the passes. In clips recorded by news agency, people who started queuing early for the passes pushed and jostled each other, leading to the stampede, Venkateswara said, adding that about a dozen of the 35 injured who were taken to the hospital are still being treated. Temple operator, the Tirumala Tirupati, apologized for the incident and promised action against anyone found responsible. Prime Minister Narendra Modi offered condolences in a post on X, adding, "My thoughts are with those who have lost their near and dear ones." Global alcohol companies such as Diageo, Pernod Ricard and Carlsberg are demanding unpaid dues of about $466 million from India's Telangana state, where Heineken suspended supplies this week in an unprecedented move, 3 industry sources said. India is the world's 8th biggest alcohol market by volume, with annual revenues that Euromonitor estimated last year at $45 billion. Each state individually regulates pricing of alcohol products, which are major contributors to their revenue. Heineken's United Breweries has said it will halt supplies to southern Telangana, India's biggest beer consumer, because of delayed payments and lack of government approval for higher prices since fiscal 2019-2020, which hurts its finances. Wednesday's unusual move by India's biggest beer company sparked a fall of 7% in its shares at a time when the industry faces intense scrutiny nationwide. Alcohol industry sources who spoke on condition of anonymity said Telangana owed total unpaid dues of about 40 billion rupees to whiskey and beer companies. Late on Wednesday, Telangana Minister Jopali Krishna Rao, said United Breweries, which has 70% of the market in the state, had suspended supplies as a tactic to press for price increase. Rao said the state owed United Breweries 6.6 billion rupees, but did not give exact reasons for the delay. He did not reveal outstanding dues to its peers, but sources said that Carlsberg is owed nearly 400 million rupees, while outstandings for AB to 1.5 billion. Dues owed to whiskey and scotch makers are much more. Pernod Ricard has been demanding 15 billion rupees, approximately $175 million, while Diego's unpaid dues are estimated at 10 billion rupees, which is at $116.40 million US dollars, two of the sources said. India's new central bank governor Sanjay Malhotra has initiated a review of the Reserve Bank of India's inflation and growth forecasting tools to minimize projection errors, four sources said. Malhotra, who took charge last month, is asking the RBI's internal teams to include new data sets, analyses and projections in their inflation and growth forecast, sources aware of the central bank's thinking said. None of the sources wish to be identified as they are not allowed to speak with the media. The RBI did not immediately respond to reporters' emails seeking comment. The review comes amid increased scrutiny on the central bank's growth and inflation estimates, which have been off the market for much of the central fiscal year, with growth on track to be much weaker than expected and inflation higher. Malhotra is data-driven as of now. He wants to curb forecast errors that the RBI has been making on both inflation and growth, the first source said. The RBI is seeking to widen data collected on India's informal economy, which is currently inconsistent and difficult to use to make accurate forecasts, a second source aware of the discussion said. To improve inflation projections, the RBI will use machine learning tools to preempt price fluctuations in volatile items like food, the first source said. China expects an increase in the number of people joining the coming Lunar New Year travel rush, with authorities estimating a record 9 billion domestic trips will be made during the 40-day period of festivities, despite the stuttering economy. State media reported the forecast for the travel season that starts on January 14th, when people traditionally travel to and from their hometowns. Last year, authorities also expected 9 billion domestic trips, but actual numbers fell short with around 8.4 billion total trips lodged. Self-driving road trips are expected to make up about 80% of trips this year, followed by train and air travel. Lee Chunin, an official with the National Development and Reform Commission (NDRC), said in a press briefing on Wednesday. This year's Spring Festival comes at a time when China's economy is in the doldrums, struggling to recover from 3 years of pandemic control and hamstrung by a prolonged property market crisis. Exports are a bright spot in growth, but face possible new U.S. tariffs when Donald Trump takes office this month. The government has rolled out a flurry of stimulus measures in recent months, including interest rate cuts and an expansion in the scope of a consumer goods trade-in scheme, but has so far failed to stage a sustained recovery. Annual official tallies of trips made during the New Year travel rush have jumped since the Ministry of Transport revised the metric before the 2023 Lunar New Year to include self-driving road trips on major national expressways. The leader of a Japanese crime syndicate who was charged by U.S. authorities with trafficking nuclear materials from Myanmar pleaded guilty on Wednesday, the U.S. Justice Department said in a statement. Takeshi Ebisawa, 60, of Japan, pleaded guilty in Manhattan, New York, to conspiring with a network of associates to traffic nuclear materials, including uranium and weapons-grade plutonium, for Myanmar to other countries. The Justice Department said Ebisawa also pleaded guilty to international narcotics trafficking and weapon charges. The department added. In February 2024, U.S. authorities charged the Japanese Yakuza crime leader with conspiring to traffic nuclear materials from Myanmar for expected and firearms offenses. As he admitted in federal court today, Takeshi Ebisawa brazenly trafficked nuclear material, including weapons-grade plutonium, out of Burma.